I think I like hit that. You know, you start babysitting at 13, I think I'm done. I'm maxed out. I'm too old to babysit now. So I'm done. But things happen that you don't always expect. So we're going to talk a little bit about expectation and what the Bible says you can experience with expectation. Did you guys know that we have a God that loves us so much that he sent his son to die for us? Did you expect that? Because I don't expect any of you to give up your only son to die for me. But God did it, right? And so we can expect a God who loves us that much to show up again and again and again. So James 1 says this in verse 6, "But when you ask God, be sure that you really expect him to answer. For a doubtful mind is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed out by the wind. People like that should not expect to receive anything from the Lord." So what does that mean? It means expect that God is going to do what he says he's going to do, and don't doubt it, or you won't receive it. God is so cool. Think about the things that he has done in the Bible. I mean, there are some pretty awesome miracles that have happened, and we can have that today. We just have to expect it and not doubt it, right? So I'm going to talk about a person who is one of my favorite people in the Bible. We're going to kind of jump across the Bible a little bit. We're going to go to Joshua, 2 Kings, do a little Old Testament today. But Joshua is one of my favorite people in the Bible. And I'm not going to put the verses on the screen, but I'll tell you where it's coming from because I'm kind of just going to tell you the story. Joshua chapter 3 is where this is coming from. And we're going to talk about right after Moses had led the people. People know about Moses, right? I don't have to tell you a lot about him. So Moses had led these people through Egypt, right? Brought down the 10 Commandments from the mountain, and he led them through 40 years of wandering through the desert. They had seen God part the Red Sea. They had seen him provide manna from heaven. They had seen him offer water out of a rock. And they had even been led by a pillar of fire at night. See, Moses, he took his moment, he had his farewell speech, said goodbye to all of the people, and left them in the hands of Joshua. So now they're standing on this river, the River Jordan, and they're ready to go into the land that God promised them. Could you imagine the magnitude of that? For 40 years, you've been wandering through a desert, watching miracles happen day in and day out, and you're about to walk into the land he promised you. 40 years of expectation. That's a long time to think and wonder and expect and maybe be afraid. Think about the buzz that's in the air. You know, they're talking, is this really the promised land? Do you think this is going to be okay? Is there really milk and honey there? Right? 40 years. So they gathered at the riverbank, and they weren't sure what awaited them. And this is what Joshua says. This is his first command to his people. Consecrate yourself. They mean the same thing, but we don't really do that kind of thing here in our world today. See, what Joshua was telling them to do is prepare themselves for what's coming. The preparation wasn't just get your stuff and let's go. The preparation that he called them to was a ritual process of bathing and prayer that ensured that their hearts, their mind, their bodies were physically ready and pure to go into the promised land. They wanted to make sure that they were prepared for the work God was going to go and do through them. See, preparing ourselves is of equal value today. We don't do it the same way. I'm not asking you to do any spiritual bathing or anything like that, but I am asking you to pray. I think that we prepare ourselves in different way. Ours isn't quite so physical, but everything that we do is in prayer and expectation. We want to make sure that we're doing everything according to what God says, according to his will and his way. So Joshua 3:5 says this, "For tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you." Prepare yourselves. You know, this promise stands true today. It's not just for these people. It's not just for them. It's for us too. Prepare yourselves for tomorrow. The Lord will do amazing things among you. Tell your neighbor, new year, new you. Oh man, there's all like 12 of you doing this. Man, I'm just gonna get depressed up here and walk off the stage and let Ashley finish. New year, new you. Tell your neighbor. Get excited. Okay, prepare yourselves. Sanctify yourselves. Thank you for that woot. I appreciate it. Okay. Anyway, so I wonder how many of us, though, expect things like that to happen right now. How many of you expect to see a blind person healed today? How many of you expect to have bread fall from the sky because we're hungry? How many of you expect to see God guide you by a star or a pillar of light? Some of us don't expect that, and we could, and we should. It says that God can do anything that you could ever ask or imagine. What if we were comfortable with the signs and wonders of the Bible today? See, Joshua says, "Come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you." And he began to describe the way that God will go ahead of them and make a way for them. Are we coming to church every week with a sense of anticipation and expectation? Do you come to Go Church expecting God to move, or are you just sitting here because it's something to do? Do we walk with God expecting God to work with us, through us, among us every single day with those people you don't like that you work with? We all have them. Okay. Mine is Margaret. She's right here. Okay, just kidding. We cannot be content living lives that don't ask God to amaze us, okay? Every single day we should expect God to amaze us. We cannot be content with a church life that's based every decision on our capabilities. God has a plan for our life that's greater than what we can do alone. Look at how we got this building. If you're still wondering how a church with $20,000 in the bank landed a $2 million building, you need to start expecting more from God. Because we expected it. We expected it. God said it, we asked for it, we expected it, and we're here. And if you're questioning that, then you need to up your prayer life and expect some things from God. God calls us to do more, and God promises us more. If we could do everything ourselves, then why would he want us to do it? He needs us to need him. He wants us to want him. And as we expect that from him, we are having a relationship with him, which is what he wants. So, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Next in this story, what happened was, they're still standing at the river, right? But what I didn't tell you is that the river is at flood capabilities. Do you guys remember when that river right out there was at flood level? You think you could walk through it at that time? I couldn't have walked through it. It kind of scared me. I thought it was going to come up to the building, okay? It wasn't. It never even got to the parking lot. But it's scary. And they're standing there, and the Jordan River is flooded, and they're expected to walk through it, right? So they had heard Joshua's promises, but they saw the water, and it was scary. So there are moments in life where we have a raging river in front of us, but we have to be obedient. When the people put their feet in the river, I'm going to say this again because it's really exciting. When the people took a step and put their feet in the river, they were standing on dry land. It parted to the left, it parted to the right, and they were on dry land. Sometimes it's not just about God asking you to do something, it's about you being obedient enough to take that step. Sometimes we have to take that step and be obedient, and we will stand on dry land. You guys have storms and rivers that you face? Because I know I do. But when you are obedient, when you take that step, when you expect God to show up, there he will be. He always shows up. How exciting is that? No, I feel like no one's excited. Are you excited? Oh, good. Okay. There's 3 of you excited. I appreciate it. No, there's more than 3 of you. But that's so exciting. As soon as you expect God to do it, he's going to do it. They were faithful and they were obedient. Okay, so we're going to jump across to 2 Kings and talk about Elijah and Elisha. And I'm sorry if you misconstrue my pronunciation, because Elijah was the prophet who was a father figure to Elisha with an S, not a J, an S. And Elisha wanted to learn everything he possibly could from Elijah, and it was super exciting, and it was like this moment. You guys ever have like a mentor in your life? Because I'll tell you that, like, Pastor Chad is a mentor in my life. I think that I will, 2007 is the first time that I started interning for Go Church. So if you think about where I was in 2007, I was a sophomore in college, scary. I was nowhere near able to speak. Remember, I said a bunch of ums when I was talking. I led worship to the youth group, and one day Pastor Chad walked into my office and said, "Hey, you know how you lead worship for youth?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "You're going to start leading worship for everyone." And I was like, "No, I'm not." But I did it, and it was scary, and it was the craziest 2.5 years of my life as a worship leader who knew nothing about what she was doing. Sometimes just because you can sing doesn't mean you can lead people, and leadership quality is something that you have to learn and you have to respect, and it took a long time for me to get there. But I'm blessed that I am here, and I owe a lot of that to my pastors. We have great pastors here at Go Church. If you don't know them well enough, please take the time to get to know them. They're great people, and I owe being in ministry to them a lot of it. So they're pretty awesome. But that's what Elijah was to Elisha. Elisha looked up to Elijah, and he was this amazing prophet that Elisha wanted to be just like. So we're going to read a little bit about this in 2 Kings chapter 2. Now, this is right before God is going to take Elijah up to heaven. Remember, Elijah got to go in chariots of fire up to heaven. What a way to be called by our Father, to get to go up in chariots of fire. I mean, that's cool. Like, some of us get to go on a cloud. Some of us have to, die and go up in spirit form. But some of us get to be taken up in chariots of fire. That's cool. So, Elijah and Elisha are walking, and Elijah says, "Elisha, you stay here, for the Lord is sending me to Bethel." But Elisha says, "As the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." And so they went down to Bethel. And the people who were in Bethel came out to Elisha and said, "Do you know that today the Lord will take away your master?" And he said, "Yes, I know. Keep quiet." And so it happens again. Elijah says, and Elisha are walking, and Elijah says, "Elisha, you stay here, for the Lord is sending me to Jericho." But Elisha says, "As the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." And so they went down to Jericho. And again, it happened. The people in Jericho came out to Elijah and said, "Do you know that today will be the day the Lord will take your master?" And he says, "Yes, I know. Keep quiet." And so it happens again. Elijah and Elisha are walking, and Elijah says, "Elisha, you stay here, for the Lord is sending me to Jordan." But Elisha says, "As the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." And so they went down to Jordan. 50 men came out as they were standing by the Jordan. Then Elijah took his cloak and rolled it up and struck the water. And the water was parted to the one side and to the other, till the two of them could walk on dry ground. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Ask what I shall do for you before I am taken from you." And Elisha said, "Please let there be a double portion of your spirit on me." And he said, "You have asked a hard thing, yet if you see me as I am being taken from you, it shall be so for you. But if you do not see me, it shall not be so." And as they still went on and talked, behold, the chariots of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen." And he saw him no more. Then he took hold of his own clothes and tore them into 2 pieces. Then he took the cloak of Elijah that had fallen from him and struck the water, saying, "Where is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" And when he had struck the water had parted to one side and to the other, and Elisha went back over it. Now when people who were at Jericho saw him opposite them, they said, "The spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha." See, Elisha asked for a double portion. Elijah had 7 notable miracles in the Bible. 7. And Elisha asked for double. That's like 14, right? So he's asking for double because he looks to Elijah as the father. And it was proper in these customs that the firstborn received a double portion and everyone else had a single portion. So Elisha earned a double portion. Here's the thing, though, is that Elijah was suddenly gone, and Elisha did something very significant. He took hold of his own clothes, and he ripped them in 2. This represents something simple. It represents my plans and my ambitions and everything I thought I wanted, I'm laying down to you. When I cross back over that river, I don't want to be Elisha. I want to be seen as God's presence in my life. See, we have the same thing that Elisha got with Elijah through Jesus Christ. Our Father sent his Son to die for us. So through him, we can do anything, and we can have a double portion. We can expect anything. See, Christ has already gone before us. He took the pain before us. We don't have to do that. In Christ, nothing can stop us. In Christ, nothing is impossible. If he said it, it'll happen. Because of Christ, we have a double portion. But you have to want what comes with it. If you're being defeated, God is calling you to be a conqueror. If you live in the realm of your own reasoning, God's asking you to come back to his. You can have a double portion. So, I am going to play a little video really quick. Everybody in your seats, you have a little index card. If you don't, there's one near you, so make sure you grab one. And I'm going to kind of explain what we're going to do after this video. So I'm going to let Lexi go ahead and play that.